Hey everyone, it's that time of year where I decide I'm going to rehash all my tutorial, well not tutorial, more like tips and useful knowledge videos. So the first thing I'm going to start off with are hotkeys, so key mapping in general, and then hotbars, and I'll explain a couple of things along the side too, like mouse binding and secondary keys. But to start off, we're going to look at controls. So I have the basic WASD, as I guess you would call it, WASD, for moving back, forward, left and right, or looking left and right. And then here's a big change I don't have. Strafe left and right. Normally this would be Q and E, but I took those off and there's nothing here. If you're wondering what strafe left and right do, it's essentially just moving in a um, well, left and right direction without having to look. And that's a pretty useful thing to have, so you might be wondering why I don't have that enabled. Well, the alternative is that if you hold the right mouse, or let me try that again. If you hold the right mouse button, you can move your camera around, and I believe this is a default thing. You don't have to go anywhere to do that. I already conveniently looked it over here, so yeah. But when you hold down your right mouse button, you can actually hit A and D to strafe alternatively. So, and then you can hit W or S alongside these two keys. So you can essentially do the same thing with just your right mouse button. This is a matter of preference. You can keep Q and E as your strafe or change it to whatever, but personally I like keeping Q and E for actual skills, and that is why I choose to not have any strafing. Then we have automatic, well, how many words am I going to mess up? Let's try not to do that much. Automatic forward. I have it on a weird combination of Shift and F. Normally it's on numpad, and that's actually a pretty good button to keep it on because you don't need to auto run too much, and it's usually for reasons that are not related to you having to get away. Well, if it is to get away, then you're already out of danger by the time you're using auto run, but normally it's just, to be moving from one place to another without having to worry about your keys too much. And I actually put it on Shift F because I don't have a numpad, so that's the best I could do, where it's really convenient for my left hand to just hit Shift and F together. And then automatic reverse, numeric keypad, forward or backslash, excuse me, not forward slash. See, if you hit it by default, it puts you into the typing mode, but if you hit it on your numpad, it's funny, I have a numpad, but it doesn't actually have a numpad button, so that's the weird thing about it. So the ones here actually count as normal ones, and yeah. But I'm digressing from the original point. That one you don't have to change at all, because you don't really need automatic reverse too much, in my opinion. Standing jump, space. I think this one is going to be 90% everyone's going to be using space to jump. There's just no better key for jumping than your thumb. Well, what your thumb would go to. You can put it on something weird like 1, I don't know. Try to be creative, but it's more hindrance than helpful. Walk and run. These are more social. Well, I guess walk is good for maybe... Oops, that's not walk, it's sit. Walk is good for maybe if you're doing Mystic Carry and you don't want to fall off one of the ledges, but really it's situational. View opposite angle. This just, if you click it, it changes around your camera a bunch. And I don't really like that unless maybe you're auto running. Now we move down to fly. I have Shift Q and Shift D. You can also just keep it on your button here and click it, but I like to have it convenient because there are times where you just need to fly on the go, and moving your mouse down here is not always the most optimal thing to do, because sometimes you might be busy clicking somewhere else, you might be paying attention, and like if you have to click this button, I don't think you can just do that. Like, you have to look at it real quick. I mean, you can just kind of look at it with your peripheral vision, but I don't know. The point I'm making is keybinds are better than just clicking a bunch of things usually. So Shift Q and Shift D for me, because Shift is a secondary key, and I haven't really explained them too much yet, but the idea is you can combine keys together to do action, so you don't have to just, use Q, and you can use Shift Q and maybe Control Q, it depends, but that's the idea. And then toggle gliding space, that goes by default. Jump and glide have to be in the same key, they have to. And space again, that one's probably going to be most people's default. Then we have ascending and descending. So it's page up, page down. That is fine because you don't really need to worry about it too much. When I'm flying, like, I'm not going to go over to the flight area, but essentially I just look up with the right camera and then just push forward to move up or down. Flying is really hard to, or it's annoying anyway, so you can make it less annoying with a couple of keybinds, but honestly to me it's like, if you're flying, you might as well just use your normal movements and then auto approach to approach targets, because that's really useful in the air. Maybe not as much as the ground, but on the air it helps a lot. And I actually have Alt space here for my ascending because it's also mount sprint. And if you don't already know, you can summon your mount. And if you have a button for jumping, you also put it on the same one as the sprinting, and then you hit Alt and space and you do a big jump. And that's how you do big jumps. That one's pretty known, but I feel I have to explain it because it's there. So that's the first part with controls. I'm going to move on to the next one in a moment. Okay, this is going to be lengthy but situational. I hope that the information will make it worth it, but my videos tend to be 15 to 20 minutes on average anyway. We're going to move on to the combat section. Now for this I opened the skills window to the actions tab because they go hand in hand. You can do some actions instead of putting them on keybinds, and these would go on your hotbar, or you can just straight up make them keybinds. It's up to you. I prefer keybinds though. I'll try to say the word hotkey and keybinds so I don't keep repeating the same word. They're the same thing. So the first one is attack, chat, and loot. This one has to be, in my opinion, either on a really convenient hotkey or somewhere that you can go to right away if it's on your hotbar, because if you're a class that needs to weave between skills, then it's essential you have this somewhere you can spam it in between skills. I do it 2 to 3 times in between each skill just to make sure that I weave, because sometimes if you don't have your auto attack being pushed, then they stop weaving. It might be latency, it might be other things, but I just like having it there. It's better safe than sorry to just hit this skill after using your hit this action after doing skills when necessary. I keep it on Z because that's really easy for me to click with my left hand fourth finger, excuse me. And then we go to the social thing of combat normal, which is just taking your weapon out and then sheathing it. This seems to have no practical use other than showing your opponent that you're going to attack them or not. Yeah, I can't really think of a reason that you'd keep this on anything that is really a vital key. So I just put it on Shift R because it's out of the way, but it's still convenient enough to where I can click it or use the set of keys, and yeah, I'll just take the weapon out. Here's something more important, changing weapon. Again, you can put this on your hotbar, you can put it anywhere. I wouldn't say you have to put it somewhere close to, 1 to 5 or whatever you put on your hotbar, but I personally have it keybound to, oops, that's something else, to Shift Z. I forget what the Q is, or the Q, wow. Train of thought just went out the window. Okay, I forget what the default hotkey for it is, but I have it on Shift Z because that's actually not too bad. I can do it while running too. I have to hold down my right and left mouse button and then click it. And I believe you have to do, I'm not sure if you need to, yeah, I think you need to, well, I'm not even sure if you need to like keep anything special keybound, because I think you can just hold these together and auto run. Am I wrong? I think I'm okay with that. If I'm wrong, correct me, but I'm showing you my mouse buttons here so you can see. But yeah, I hold down right and left, and then I just shift. That way I can use both my hands and everyone's happy. Then we move down to power shards. This, like, you keep this on B. There's nothing else that needs to be on B in my opinion. It's out of the way. You don't have to push that much, and yeah, just power shards. Why? Because power shards. Here's a pretty good one to consider. Select nearest enemy. Now, enemy can be enemy player or enemy NPC. This I keep on tab by default because tab is a really good skill for, or key for, just going through everything. I know some people keep just the PvP targets on tab. Alternatively, you can switch between them. If you're PvPing, you can put tab here. I actually, or not here, but tab to here, yeah, to select nearest enemy NPC. For me, though, I keep it on tab because I actually use the click button on the mouse wheel, which you can do on, I think, every mouse. If it's not like that, then you probably need a better mouse, because even my mouse actually costs $10 and it can do that. It also has 2 thumb buttons and one other thing. So yeah, you should be able to do that. I keep it on the click wheel because it's actually a pretty good thing. You can just click that right away with your second right hand finger, and it's not in the way of any skills at all. So you can consider that. I use that and I really like that positioning. And then selecting nearest ally target corpse. Those are fine on what they are. Next corpse is really good when you get one of those body bugs where you can't select it. I'm pretty sure you can just do the select next corpse thing. And then brand new target. Or brand target rather. That's actually a funny one because I don't think I really need to. Yeah, I don't use that, so you can keep that whenever, but that's weird. I'm not even sure what it does, to be honest, because I never used it. Control tab, so it just goes to a brand target, like... Okay, so this lets you filter between all the brand targets, I guess. There we go, explanation solved. Personally, I just preferred clicking the targets because if you call out the number, then you can just go to the number. But I'll get to that after this. Lastly, we have select targets target. This is essentially an assist button, excuse me, and you just use this mostly, in my case, when someone in your team is calling out a target that isn't marked, so you just want to go to it right away. I click on his name, then I click the tilde button, and voila, I have the target. So this is Yenvi, and her target is Nailiel. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but now I can go to her. Yay, it's really simple. You just do this for whatever. Go Runrenurk. Oh no, Go Rorenurk. Yeah, that's the name. But that does it for the combat section, so I will move on now. Here is another social tab, functions, and everything here is pretty, well, minimal. The only thing you could really care about is reply to whisper. For me, I put it on Control G because I actually like to use, I think the default for whisper is T. T for healing light. So there's healing light, and mine's on Control G because that is actually not too bad. I use my pinky and my index finger on my left hand, and then I can reply to, oh, conveniently, I have a whisper from someone already. That's nice. Recording magic. It doesn't have to be on anything crazy. You could just click on their name and hit reply for all that matters, because unless you're running in combat, you don't really need it to be on a hotkey. And even then, if you're running in combat, you can just, auto run and reply. Really simple. Request trade, that one doesn't even matter. I put it on Shift T. I don't even remember I have it on Shift T, but that one's not that big of a deal. I guess you can just do that instead of having to click on someone. Hide show UI F12 by default. Just keep it there. Like, you don't need to change that unless you're somebody that spends a lot of their time removing their UI to take pretty screenshots, and in which case you can put it on one and then unbind it later on. Hide show speech. I never clicked that. Hide show other NPCs. This one's nice too. Shift 12 is fine because you don't do this all the time. You only do this when you're lagging hardcore. Take all. Is that for looting? I just do shift and then right click. Yeah. Because right click for me is attack chat, which is also loot, and then shift is the default way to loot everything on a body alongside attack chat. Do it to yourself if you don't believe me. I don't feel like going and killing a mob, but that's what it is. Okay, wait. I gotta keep my fraps counter up to make sure I'm recording. Group and alliance. I'm just gonna put this together in the same recording because that was short. I'm doing these in clips so that if I mess up, I can go back and do them again because I can't talk perfectly the first time, and by the fifth time, well, no, I haven't done that except for on the combat one because there's a lot, but yeah, just to make sure it sounds okay. So group, you can minimize the window on the top left by hitting the semicolon button. I don't have a group with anyone. I'm just gonna borrow somebody for group. But that just essentially makes it more convenient to have your team window in the top left like this. It's not a big deal. And then you have select yourself, F1, that's a good key to have, and then F6, or F1 to F6, just selecting people in your group. You can actually also have something to select your pet, but honestly, I don't know, I just keep my pets here, the ones that I use in combat, so not a big deal to me. Hello, Ooga Booga. And then these are completely useless. I would never keybind here because you'd have to unkeybind them later if you put them on your like keys that you'd use for things, and really it's not worth the effort of just using your mouse. Oh, brands. Yeah, keep trucking on the same recording. So brands are really essential for PvP. You can do 1, 2, 6, doesn't matter. Keep them in a place where you can use them conveniently, but they're not getting in the way of essential skills. You can even click them if you want. It's up to you. I personally have them on Shift F1 to F6 because while I'm branding, I'm usually not fighting, and These aren't too bad to get. I have to lift my left hand. I go from like shift 1 or F1 to F6. And those are kind of far, but the reason is because when I select them, I actually have shift and the normal numbers, and this does not require lifting your hand at all. So I can just go shift 1, 6, etc. This is personal preference, but I honestly believe you should have these on keybinds. It's faster than just clicking them on your hotbars. It's a lot of stuff to click or a keybind, but it's important in my opinion. So on the Windows section, you really don't need to care about any of these. There are mostly secondary keys that you can keep on default or unbind because you're really not going to be using these in combat, like M, P, etc. I mean, you can open your map. That's a pretty okay one, and your mini map should be open by default if you use it, but yeah, I even took off friend from V and put it on Shift B and LFG on Shift V because I wanted to free up the letter V for my normal use. Which brings us to the final point, quick bars. This is important because I use a lot of the letters around WASD. I try to revolve my keyboard around those, and I think most people do. But I'm going to go through each of the rows here. So we're going to start off with the basic quick bars, which are the bottom ones. Funny enough, you keep your basic skills there. Really clever, I know. But let's go through them. 1 through 4, simple, just my normal attack skills. 5 through 7. 6 and 7 are not convenient keys because you have to lift your hand usually to get them, and if you don't, you still have to move your hand a bit because unless your fingers are extremely long, and mine are not, then yeah, you can't just go over there and click them. I mean, if they are, that's awesome for you, and then you have to worry about it. But for me, I actually keep 6 and 7 as the parrying procs because I use them in conjunction with my perfect parry. Since I know in PvP I won't be parrying unless I proc it off of this skill, that way I can assure myself, you know, I hit 5, so I'm probably going to need to use 6 and 7 soon enough, and then I can not worry about them later on. Which is really good because, like I said, 6 and 7, they're not that great for just normal skills, in my opinion anyway. And then 8 through 10 are actually QCV, another set of combos. You might be wondering why QCV? Well, it's like a waterfall. Sure, waterfall. If you hit Q, you can hit C and V right after. No, stop trying to knock that down. QCV. It's left hand, fourth finger on Q, and then thumb CV. And the best part is you can use C and V on a normal knockdown without having to proc anything, just by CV, because your thumb is usually free from anything except if you're jumping a lot, and I really don't recommend jumping a lot in PvP. I mean, a lot of people do it, I do it myself at times, but I'm trying to not use that habit where you just hit space, space, space all the time. It's, first of all, it's really annoying, and second of all, it doesn't really accomplish you anything. So, yeah. And third of all, it keeps you away from using C and V right away. That's probably the best point, which is why I do not advise it. And finally, we have dash and equal sign. This is just HP buffs. You can keep these as dash and equal sign. It doesn't matter that much because they're really far away. So I like having them there because I can take my right hand off my mouse and just hit those two keys and voila. Or is it? I keep saying voila. It should be voila. So next we move on to the first quick bar. There's a lot here, and I start bringing up the secondary keys. Now the first three are Alt 1, Alt 2, and Alt 3. The idea behind Alt keys is that you have to move your thumb inward and then use your fourth finger again to start pressing things. Well, I guess fourth finger for just one, but then I use the third for 2 and 3, etc. It doesn't matter that much. As long as you're using your thumb with something. That's the idea, and it's a little inconvenient, but honestly it's not that big of a deal. You just move your thumb in for the duration of the skills. I would not recommend it for skills you need to spam, because that would get uncomfortable. Although I have melee smash here. Where is it? Alt Q. That's still not bad, because I'm not doing that all the time. It's every 30 seconds at least, and that's a very big at least. But yeah, I recommend Alt keys for a couple of skills, 1 to 3 maybe, even Q. Just skills that you need to use, but you don't need to spam. The healing is the most I'd have to spam, and I'm used to it at this point to where it doesn't bother me, but again, it's preference, and I think you should use keybinds as much as you can, so all 3 all the way. Then we have a bunch of letters, so I'm going to go through them. E, Mountain Crash. I keep it there because it's a 30-second skill, and I like having it on something that I can jump shot really fast, so I just jump and then hit it. And you can't see it now because I just used it, but when I land I hit the E and then I can just keep going. I don't have to move my hand too much. R is for Thunderbolt. This one I also like having on my index finger kind of button because it's another nice chasing skill, and it's something you can double tap too. So double tap with R. It also has a 1 minute cooldown, so I would never put it on 1 to 5 because those take too long, and I want to use 1 to 5 for things that don't take as long. And then here's the E. We have F for Annihilation. This is also a 1 minute long skill. I can use my index finger for it too, and it's in another convenient spot. So again, if you're going to start putting things on letters versus numbers, always take into consideration skills that have longer cooldowns and skills that are reactionary, skills that are more situational, etc. Because the ones that are going to be used most often should be on keys or numbers, etc. that are really, really simple. Okay, X, binding word. This one, again, it's kind of situational. I don't throw it all the time. I might just throw it randomly. I might wait to use it. But I keep it an X because that's on my thumb button and it's not too inconvenient. And yeah, pretty much just that. So I can use it whenever I need to. G. Okay, G is a little out of the way. I can still reach it with my second index finger. Second index finger, wow. Left hand index finger. That was not redundant at all. But it's a 3 minute cooldown, so this is something you pop methodically. You don't just pop this whenever, but it's like, oh, I'm going to use Blessing and Wind. Well, I'm going to go hit G. And actually, I'm going to combine that with the Unstoppable, because I believe these two should be used together as much as you can. There are very few cases where I think Unstoppable would not be useful with Blessing of Wind, because the idea behind Unstoppable is that you have a better chance of keeping someone locked down, and that's the whole point. And then you do more damage when they're locked down. But that's more Channer stuff than general stuff, so I apologize for making that a little more specific. But I'm kind of reiterating the idea of having combo keys, things that you can go to conveniently together. So, because I already have 3 here. I've got the parrying, the knockdowns, and then the 3 minute cooldowns. And then finally we have Healing Light on T, because Healing Light's not that great, but it's better to have it on a key than not a key, because you'll still use it. But and then what's the last skill? Oh, okay, I have my first Remove Shock. This is on a mouse button. I highly advise it either be on a thumb mouse button or maybe X, something that you can really get to fast, because Remove Shock is one of the most important things ever. So yeah, just somewhere convenient. And I'm gonna go again with the idea that I have my second Remove Shock on Shift plus my mouse button, so I can use one and then use the other in the same way. It's like essentially I'm keeping skills that do the same thing or have a synergy with another skill together on similar letters or buttons, because that makes it easier for me. Wow, this explanation is super long. And then finally Rage Spell and Promise of Wind, I keep them on all Q. These are again buffs that I don't need to worry about casting too much, so I just keep them on the keybinds but not in the way. Whew, we're almost done. So second quick bar, this is going to be the top one here. I don't think this one's a floating one either, so it's also the one that's stuck on your keyboard, or hotbars, excuse me. And here I actually have my controls. I have control 1 to 3. I like having control for the 10-minute cooldowns because I don't use them that much, so if I'm going to use them, then I only have to go there once. So control 1, easy peasy, control 2, and then the blink also control 3. These are not at all inconvenient. It's pinky plus middle finger. That's what I do. And again, these are going to be things that you probably won't be using too much. You can do things like control Q, E, A, D. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I'm just giving you the general idea that secondary keys, control, alt, shift are really good. Then I have my heal over time on alt E, because alt E is actually not too bad to just target something and give it a heal over time, because you don't spam this skill, and if you do, then you run out of mana. And then I already talked about the Unstoppable, so I'm going to actually explain the dispelling. I have my dispel on shift plus 1, or shift plus mouse 1, which is going to be one of my, I have 2 thumb buttons on my mouse like I said before, and then my normal pots are just on the mouse button by itself. So again, synergy, dispel, dispel, because it's really crucial that you be able to dispel 3 at an almost instant point if you need to. I know I've missed some before in the past, but if you can keep them all together, it's really convenient. And I don't like clicking greater healing pots. That should be the one pot that is not clicking, in my opinion. I talked about alt Q already. That's it for this row. And then everything else is more or less just whatever. I have Alt R. What's Alt R? Oh, I have that up here because sometimes I use Soul Crush and I put it right there. Control X mouse button. Yeah, there's nothing else here to explain really. You could even do Control plus the middle mouse, the scroll wheel button. And okay, that does it for keybinds. Finally, I have the floating things of just whatever I click. And I put mantras here because you don't need to really have them on keybinds. I put jelly, seeds of detection, deep keys. All my pots, you could argue that pots might be better off hotkeyed. And you could be right, you could put these on some hotkeys, but to me, I need to click something at least because I'm already using my mouse for mostly everything that I need to. So my mouse is free to just click pots, and you can spam pots. These are like once every 30 seconds, once every 5 minutes. Scrolls once every minute. Lucidity. Oh, here's one I forgot to mention. I actually have this on control plus second mouse button. Oh, I didn't open it, but that one's at too many cooldown. But I have it on hotkey too. I would recommend hotkeying this because you might forget if you're clicking this all the time to refresh it, and you really want to be refreshing it because it's so good. Return, resurrection. Oh, that should do it for all these hotkeys. I have my macros up here too. But yeah, I hope this video was helpful. It's going to be kind of long, but I'm going to try to make it as convenient as I can make it for viewing on YouTube with some editing and YouTube things. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I hope this was helpful. Until the next time, I'm going to be probably rehashing more of these kind of videos over the next week or two in the spirit of Christmas, but also because I think it's a good idea. So take care, everybody.